Hey guys. This is part 2. What if Naruto lost the Kyuubi after the fight in the Valley of the End? Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 7. Training for the Genin Exam Part 5. Next day, Training Ground 43. The next morning found Naruto running laps around the village, on his hands, as this worked wonders on his upper body and arms. He had already completed his usual physical exercise routine, and this was a new addition to his physical exercise routine. Having finished 20 rounds around Konoha on his hands, Naruto went on to his next new exercise, which was vertical handstands, combined with leaf-sticking exercise. After 100 repetitions, Naruto went to a nearby cave in the mountains surrounding Konoha and used his chakra to stick to the mouth of the cave using his palms and continued doing pull-ups with a fire burning beneath where he was hanging from the ceiling. This served as both an intense physical exercise as well as a chakra control exercise. Then he repeated this exercise while hanging from the ceiling using his chakra through his legs, while he pulled up his body towards the ceiling of the cave. The fire underneath him served as an encouragement to not lose his focus and also his grip on the ceiling. He had suffered a couple of burns on his back, but had immediately doused them in the cool water of the stream running just a few steps from the mouth of the cave. And then Naruto had his clone apply a burn-healing salve he had brought with him, on the burns on his back. This would also make his skin tough. Naruto didn't worry much about the burn. As though it was very painful, he knew that it would heal completely in 1 or 2 days, leaving behind nothing but a scar. Naruto had observed that his healing factor had improved from where it was after the Kyuubi was extracted from him. Naruto assumed that a fair amount of his chakra had also been sealed to keep the Kyuubi's influence at bay, and with the destruction of the seal, his chakra had also been unsealed and at his use completely. His chakra flowed much more fluidly and smoothly, and he could use jutsu much more easily, without constant fluctuations caused by the Kyuubi's chakra mingling with his own and disrupting the chakra flow in his body. Then after taking a few minutes of rest, Naruto tried to walk in water using his hands instead of his legs, while his clones worked on his normal water walking and other chakra control exercises and also practicing his kawarimi, kunai kage bunshin jutsu, and the shunshin. Naruto was also working on an idea he had about overloading a shadow clone with chakra and making it explode. He had experimented with it, and was very satisfied with it. It had resulted in a magnificent explosion. It truly was art. Naruto suddenly got the feeling that he had made someone very proud without meaning to. Somewhere in aim, a blonde person dressed like a transvestite pumped his fist in the air and exclaimed, "Yash!" Someone finally understood that art is an explosion, making his partner in crime to shake his head in exasperation. When would Deidara understand that art was eternal, Sasori wondered. Naruto decided to name his new clone variant as Bunshin Daibakuha, Great Clone Explosion. Naruto felt that this would come as a nasty surprise to anyone Ji was fighting with. Naruto then had set aside a couple of clones to work on the controlling the degree of explosion he wanted to be caused by the exploding clone, by regulating the chakra used. Naruto also spent a lot of time practicing to seamlessly substitute with his shadow clones which were indistinguishable from him, even to the Sharingan, as his chakra was distributed evenly among them. Naruto also had a few ideas to battle the Sharingan and the Byakugan, but he didn't have the time to work on them at present, so he made a note to get back to them as soon as he had some free time. Naruto had also managed to master the henge seamlessly. It had not been much difficult as he was already very proficient in its use. It was while mastering the sealless version of the henge that Naruto realized that his henge was solid instead of being an illusion. Naruto created a solid construct of chakra in the shape of the target of the henge around himself, thereby making it solid, but it took him 10 times the chakra required for a normal henge to pull it off. Naruto decided to keep it to himself for now, as it could be very useful in infiltration and information gathering missions. Naruto had also mastered the basic henge, which was not at all difficult after mastering his unique solid henge. Now Naruto was working on mastering the basic illusion Bunshin learned in the academy. As Naruto finished his practice for his unique version of water walking and was getting back to resuming another session of physical conditioning instead of lying about as Anko-sensei had not arrived yet, he seamlessly substituted himself with a shadow clone as he felt something about to attack him. And he was proven correct when his clone caught a kunai thrown at him, and then his clone promptly substituted with a rock when the kunai turned out to be wrapped in an exploding tag. The original Naruto watched as the resulting explosion from the kunai destroyed the rock. The Naruto clone used the chakra pulse from the exploding tag as a cover to shun Shin behind Anko and kick her in the back, but she turned at the last moment and caught his right leg, which was about to make contact with her. But Naruto just swung his other leg at her head and she caught this too. Anko swung Naruto around by his legs and bashed him into the ground and said, "What will you do now, Gaki?" Naruto just smirked and said, "Boom." Anko's eyes widened as the Naruto in front of her suddenly exploded, and though she tried to substitute away, she was caught in the explosion a little, as she didn't think that Naruto knew that move. She had a few first-degree burns on her arms and legs. Just as Anko sighed in relief at escaping the majority of the explosion, the original Naruto crashed into her from atop a tree using a chakra-enhanced double stomp to the top of head. Anko sensed him at the last moment, and used both her hands to block his kick, but the impact forced her to her knees. Naruto took advantage of this and kicked her in her stomach with a triple kick combo, and the blows were chakra-enhanced. Anko spit out saliva and some blood from the brutal kicks to her stomach, but she quickly recovered and suddenly disappeared and reappeared behind Naruto, aiming a kick at his head. Naruto, who sensed her, just shifted his head out of the way, and caught her leg and tried to swing her around, but she placed a palm on the ground for support, and instead used the leg Naruto caught in his hands to swing Naruto around and then launched him into a tree with a brutal kick to his stomach. Naruto crashed into the tree with a thud and spit out blood from the impact. He immediately substituted out of the way of the snakes she launched at him to hold and restrain him. But Anko sensed where he was substituting to, and was waiting for him with a brutal double kick to his torso, which again launched Naruto into a tree, but Naruto had cracked his head on the tree and was feeling dizzy. As Naruto flew up from the impact, he started swaying as he was not feeling very steady on his feet. Anko caught him before he could fall again. Anko checked the back of his head and said, "You got a bump on your head, kid. I think you got a concussion. It's better to get it looked at immediately. No need to give a chance for complications to occur. I am taking you to the hospital, so that Shizen can have a look at it. Concussions are nasty things to deal with. Now hold on tight, kid. I am going to carry you to the hospital. You shouldn't use the shunshin when suffering from a concussion." Saying this, Anko picked up an embarrassed Naruto in a bridal carry and slowly walked to the hospital, making sure not to jostle him. All the while Naruto was hiding his blushing red face as best as he could as his face was pressed into her chest. Seeing Naruto's blushing face, Anko just shook her head and said, "You shouldn't feel embarrassed about such a small thing, kid. What if a kunoichi you are battling with suddenly removes her top to distract you? Will you cover your eyes and turn away? She will kill you immediately. Remind me to train you to resist seduction after you pass your genin exam." To Naruto's relief, they finally reached the hospital, and Anko took him to Shizen's office. Shizen was just finishing up some reports and about to go and have breakfast with Naruto, when Anko entered with Naruto in her arms. Shizen immediately got up and took Naruto from her arms and placed him on the bed in her room. "What happened to him? He looks to be feeling dizzy," Shizen directed her question to Anko. "Well, the Gaki hit his head hard on a tree while he was sparring with me. He looks to have gotten a concussion. He was really dizzy, so I carried him here. There is a big bump on the back of his head," Anko replied. Shizen then saw that Anko also was sporting some superficial burns on her arms and legs. "How did you get injured?" Shizen asked, pointing to Anko's injuries. "Oh, these. The Gaki got me by surprise. He used the exploding clone technique, and it caught me by surprise. By the way, I didn't know that you were going to teach him the exploding clone?" Anko asked. "What are you talking about? I didn't teach him the exploding clone. Even I didn't know that he knew the exploding clone technique. My guess is that Tsunade-sama taught him. She is the only one who could have taught him other than the both of us." Shizen answered Anko, while healing Naruto's concussion and the bump on his head, which was bleeding a bit. Well, anyway, he caught me by surprise and got Annie with a few good blows. This is the first time in our spars that he has even landed a clean hit on me. The Gaki is improving at an incredible rate. Anyway, how is he? Anko asked, and Shizen could detect a note of pride in her voice at Naruto's progress. He should be fine. He had a slight concussion, and I would recommend him to take rest for today. His clones can train, but I don't want him to train in any physically strenuous activities today. He should be completely fine by today evening. I have currently put him to sleep using medical jutsu. He will wake up in a few hours. I will take him to his house. You can direct his clones on what to train in and then take the day off, Shizen said to Anko. Anko just nodded in agreement and leapt out of the window to take some rest at her home, as all three of her friends, Kurenai, Yugao, and Hana, were out on missions. She decided to give Naruto's shadow clones in Training Ground 43 some tips on training before heading off. Meanwhile, Shizen had a shadow clone of hers take Naruto to his house and keep watch over him while he slept. A few hours later, Senju compound. With a tired groan, Naruto gradually opened his eyes and got up from his bed. He stretched his hands above his head and stretched his body till he heard a satisfying crack of his spine rearranging itself. The last thing he remembered was Anko taking him to the hospital and Shizen Nechan healing him. Now, he felt much better. He was no longer dizzy, and he no longer felt any bump on the back of his head. Ash tried to feel for it with his fingers. Naruto was brought out of his musings by Shizen Nechan entering his room. She checked over Naruto's condition and said, "You are fine, Naruto. But I don't want you to do anything physically taxing today. You can work on your studies and chakra control training. Now I am going to dispel, as I am a shadow clone." Naruto nodded his head in understanding, as Shizen Nechan glared at him when he tried to protest that he fit enough to do physical training. Well, what Shizen Nechan said was better than full bed rest. I would have gone stir crazy. I guess that I can create a few shadow clones to work on chakra control training by sticking stones of various sizes and leaves to stick to various parts of his body. This will be much more difficult, as the different stones and leaves will have different weights and hence require different amounts of chakra to stick to various parts of his body at the same time. While that is going on, I can work on some Fuinjutsu ideas I had, Naruto thought. Naruto created 5 shadow clones with but a thought, and 5 shadow clones appeared in a burst of smoke, which Naruto assumed was just excess chakra used in the jutsu, and Naruto was working on eliminating the smoke. But Naruto had a feeling that he would need to master more complex chakra control exercises before he could eliminate all the excess chakra he was putting into his jutsu. But he knew that would come with time and practice. Deciding to stop wasting time, Naruto directed the 5 shadow clones to work on mastering the new chakra control exercise he had thought of. As they left to work on their task, Naruto pulled out the book in which he worked on his Fuinjutsu designs, and started to write down his idea for an artificial supplementary chakra and neural network which would help tremendously with his chakra control and also massively increase his reaction speed and reflexes, which were 2 very important components for the development of any shinobi. The supplementary chakra network would reduce the burden on his tenketsu to regulate his massive chakra reserves, by increasing the number of tenketsu present to regulate his chakra flow, while the supplementary neural network would function as extra nerves between the brain, spine, and the various parts of the body, thereby massively increasing his reaction speed and reflexes and also increasing his senses very much. This would be like a version of the famed lightning elemental cloak of the Reikage of Kumo, which massively increases his reaction speed and strength, but Naruto's seal would only increase his reaction speed and reflexes and not his strength and speed. Naruto knew that this was going to be an extremely complex seal undertaking and would take at least a year to complete, but Naruto was determined to make it a reality. This would give him a massive edge over other shinobi. Naruto didn't intend to tell anyone about it, till he successfully accomplished it. His current studies on the human body and chakra system with Shizen Nechan in the hospital would prove to be very helpful in the development of this seal. So he was taking those studies very seriously. But Naruto needed access to higher-level Fuinjutsu books to make this seal a reality. But that would only be possible after he became a genin. So, for now, Naruto just sketched some ideas that Naruto had for the design of the seal. This was something that Naruto enjoyed very much, as this was basically like puzzle solving for Naruto, something which he enjoyed very much. While Naruto had a clear idea of what he wanted to achieve, it was a constantly evolving concept, as he also wanted to incorporate a few elements into the seal which would serve as a body enhancement enchantment, which would optimize the working of all elements of a human body, like blood flow, immunity, bone density, muscle toughness, cardiac cycle, lung capacity, kidney function, etc. For all that to be possible, Naruto would have to have a thorough understanding of a human body. So, Naruto decided to send a few shadow clones to the hospital every day after becoming a genin, to work on dead bodies in the morgue and also increase his skill in medical jutsu, which Shizen promised to teach him after he became a genin. And the rest of the day progressed in a similar fashion. Naruto wound down his work as it became dinner time and headed to the dining room and saw that Ba-chan and Nei-chan were already there, preparing dinner. Naruto washed his hands and greeted them both, as he sat at the dining table. And as the conversation flowed between them, about how their respective days went, the topic of Naruto's injury came up. "Oi, brat! How is your head injury?" Tsunade asked. "I am all right. By the time I woke up, I was all well, but Shizen Nei-chan wouldn't allow me to physically work out for the rest of the day," said Naruto, pouting at having to sit inside the house for hours together. "Don't pout, brat. What Shizen did was correct. Concussions are complicated things. It is always better to be sad rather than sorry when it comes to head injuries. You can complicate them very easily if you don't take proper rest. But anyway, what did you do for the rest of the day, while sitting in the house?" Tsunade asked. As Naruto narrated the training he had undergone that day, both Tsunade and Shizen were very impressed with his idea of using small rocks of different weights and sizes along with leaves to stick to his body using chakra while training, and using it as an advanced chakra control exercise. "Very good, Naruto. That is the sort of creative thinking one has to have. Your training and skill as a shinobi depends on how creatively you can use your skills and adapt your training to real-life situations. You should always be thinking up new ways to improve your skills, as stagnation leads to death in the ninja world," Shizen said. As everyone finished their dinner and were leaving for their respective rooms, Tsunade said, "Naruto, tomorrow you have an appointment with Inoichi in the afternoon. Don't forget and miss it. I want you to be there on time. It is very important that you come to terms with your past and get over it. It will make you stronger. You will have these sessions twice per week till Inoichi is satisfied with your progress. Do you understand?" Naruto nodded his head in agreement, and then headed over to his room to continue his chakra sensing practice, while his clones worked on some ninjutsu. Next day afternoon, Inoichi's office hospital. Inoichi Yamanaka was going through the files of the psych evaluation of all the students in the current graduation class at the academy. This was something he had wanted to be made mandatory for all students of the graduating class, but the Sandaime had not implemented it despite repeated requests from him. One of the reasons for the denial was the pressure by the civilian council, as none of the civilian-born students had the mentality to become a shinobi nowadays. For that matter, almost none of the students, even those from shinobi clans, had the proper mentality of a shinobi. For example, in the graduating class of his daughter Ino, except Shino Abirame, no one had the proper mentality of a shinobi. His daughter Ino and Sakura Haruno were hardcore fangirls. Shikamaru was a lazy ass. Choji was extremely shy and soft with a massive inferiority complex. Kiba was very easy to provoke and had a superiority complex. Sasuke was extremely power-hungry, had a massive superiority as well as an inferiority complex and a clear flight risk, and Naruto was fucked up in the head. Naruto should not have been allowed to become a shinobi before getting proper psychiatric help. Of all of them, Naruto was the only one who was trying to better himself. Inoichi was wondering how he had allowed his daughter to become an airheaded fangirl. He knew that he had spoiled her very badly, as she was his only, had never sat her down and told her the reality of the shinobi world and the things done by a shinobi in the name of his village. His wife Himiko was a special jounin before she retired, but even she, like him, never educated Ino in the reality of the shinobi world. Ino was their only child, as he had been poisoned on a mission after Ino's birth, and he could no longer have any more children, so both him and his wife spoiled Ino rotten. Her hanging out with Sakura and other civilian girls who were all fangirls also didn't help matters. The same was the case with both Shikamaru and Choji, as both their fathers had spoiled them, just like he had done with his daughter, as both Shikaku and Chozo were poisoned along with him on that mission. They had wanted to spare their children from the truth of the shinobi world and had wanted them to enjoy their childhood as long as they could. Inoichi was brought out of his musings when he heard someone knocking on his office door. He resolved to have a strict talk with Ino sometime soon, because she could die or something worse could happen to her on a mission, if she didn't start taking her shinobi training seriously. "Come in," said Inoichi to the person knocking on his door. As Inoichi saw Naruto entering his office, he felt a wave of guilt crash into him. Inoichi knew who Naruto's parents were. Minato and Kushina had been close friends of his as well as with Shikaku and Choza. And while he hadn't hated or mistreated Naruto, there was a lot he could have done to better Naruto's life, but he had never lifted a finger to help him. He could have told his daughter to become friends with Naruto. He had heard many times from Ino about how Naruto was struggling with his studies. He and his wife could have helped him very easily, but they hadn't. Hell, he hadn't ever even invited the child to his house for something as simple as Ino's birthday party, where she invited everyone in her class, except Naruto. Shikaku and Choza had also acted similarly to him and had never ever lifted a single finger to help the orphaned son of Minato and Kushina, thinking the situation of coming to conflict with the civilian council over them helping Naruto to be not worth the hassle. When the three clan heads together could have fended off the civilian council easily. He could only imagine what Kushina would do to them when they died. Inoichi felt a shiver down his spine as he got a terrible vision of beautiful red-haired woman with her hair risen behind her in the form of 9 tails and golden chakra chains coming from her back, skewering him with those chains. Inoichi shook himself from his musings, deciding to do better. After making Naruto sit on a couch, he began the session of psychiatric assistance that Naruto sorely needed. "So, tell me Naruto, what did you see when you were trapped in the genjutsu cast by Shizen-san? And don't worry about any sort of judgment from my side, everyone has their own fears, there is nothing to feel ashamed about. Now tell me what you saw that had you in such a state," Inoichi asked. Naruto took a fortifying breath and answered. "I saw visions of all the people I care about being near death, and they were blaming me for not saving them. The worst was the vision of them being killed by Sasuke, like the Sandaime was killed by Orochimaru. I know that the Sandaime had let Orochimaru run away when he could have killed him when he was caught doing illegal experiments on Konoha citizens, and then Orochimaru attacked Konoha and killed the Sandaime. I saw Sasuke attacking Konoha along with Orochimaru and killing all the people I care about, all because I hesitated in landing a decisive killing blow on him. This fear has been tormenting me for many days now." Naruto stopped talking and took a shuddering breath as he remembered the horrifying visions he saw, but Inoichi encouraged Naruto to keep talking and tell him everything, as he knew that the only way for Naruto to heal from the psychological trauma was if he came to terms with everything that happened to him. Naruto took a shuddering breath and continued, "I remembered my fight with Sasuke at the Valley of the End, and him piercing my chest with his Chidori. I remember Orochimaru arriving and stopping the Kyuubi's chakra from assisting me and then giving me his cursed seal. 2 times during that fight, I could have killed Sasuke, but I couldn't bring myself to do that." Inoichi allowed Naruto a few moments to collect his thoughts, and then asked, "Naruto, may I ask why you couldn't bring yourself to kill Sasuke? He was a traitor after all. You yourself said that Sasuke had admitted to leaving Konoha with the Sound 4 on his own will?" "I couldn't bring myself to kill him. He might be a traitor, but the cursed seal was making him do all that. He is my friend and I gave my word to Sakura-chan that I would bring Sasuke back. What sort of a Hokage would I be if I can't even save one friend, huh? I gave my word to Sakura-chan and Naruto Uzumaki doesn't go back on his word," Naruto said stubbornly. Inoichi just shook his head in exasperation and said, "First, the cursed seal doesn't make anyone do something they don't want to. It just whispers promises of power to you. Your sensei Anko has a cursed seal on her. You don't see her betraying the village and thrusting a lightning-covered fist through her friend's chest, do you? Sasuke left because he wanted power. He would do anything for power, even kill his own teammates. And you were never a friend to him. What even makes you think that you were his friend, Naruto? Did he ever help you? Did he ever congratulate you when you achieved anything before him? Or did he just get jealous? If you call someone who killed you twice a friend, then who do you call an enemy, Naruto? Sasuke will do anything for the power to kill his brother, even destroy Konoha, which means the destruction of all your precious people. What will you do then? Will you still call Sasuke a friend and say that he is just misguided? And Naruto, you earlier asked what kind of Hokage you would be if you didn't save a single friend? For your information, being a Hokage doesn't mean that you save a person who is traitor, whom you consider to be a friend. A Hokage has to send people out on missions that he knows they want return from. Sometimes that even includes people whom he considers friends or family. A Hokage has to put the village above anything else, even his family. The Sandaime made the same mistake with Orochimaru that you are making with Sasuke. Open your eyes, Naruto. Sasuke was never your friend. Konoha gave him everything he wanted. Your Jounin sensei Kakashi neglected you and only trained Sasuke. He trained him in taijutsu, the use of his Sharingan, fire-style ninjutsu, the chidori etc. He was treated like a prince by the villagers. Even all that didn't prevent him from betraying Konoha at the first opportunity he got. Naruto, you and Anko were treated like shit by the villagers for no fault of your own. But you both laid your life on the line many times for these same villagers who mistreated you. You never retaliated against them. And despite all the bad treatment meted out to you, you both never betrayed Konoha. Think, Naruto, is this the sort of person you want as a friend, someone who would kill you without a second thought in his quest for power and vengeance? Don't waste your life in the pursuit to redeem him, Naruto. He is not worth wasting your life on. And Naruto, think before you answer my questions. I have noticed that you have an annoying tendency of shouting out your opinions. Take it from me, you should always think about the words you want to speak and their consequences, before speaking them aloud. And also remember that people don't like those who shout out their opinions and thoughts. Talk slowly and concisely. Raising your voice never serves any purpose. Naruto opened his mouth to vehemently protest Inoichi's comments about Sasuke, but immediately shut his mouth as he engaged his brain and thought about all the things Inoichi had said, and he hated himself for admitting it, but he couldn't find anything wrong with what was said. As much as he wanted to defend Sasuke, the fact was that he was a traitor who had betrayed his village, a village whose people treated him like a prince, and where he was handed everything he wanted on a silver platter. Naruto had never admitted it to anyone, but he had always been jealous of all the adoration showered on Sasuke and the times when Kakashi trained Sasuke alone, while he left Sakura and himself to work on their own, never even offering to teach them anything despite the many number of times Naruto had nearly begged him to train them. Kakashi had even ditched him during the month after the second round of the Chunin exams and had trained Sasuke during that month and had even taught him the Chidori, while he had pawned off his training to that useless pervert Ebisu, who was someone who hated Naruto due to the biju he held within him. Even though Jiraiya had trained him during that month, it mainly consisted of making him practice the summoning jutsu on his own, while he peeked on women in the hot springs. Naruto still remembered the sheer dread he had felt when that pervert Jiraiya had pushed him down that ravine, leaving Naruto with no other option but to summon the boss toad using the Kyuubi's. Had been lucky that the Kyuubi had allowed Naruto to use its chakra, otherwise he would have been flattened on the ravine floor. And Naruto knew that people didn't like his overly loud and boisterous personality, but it had all been a part of his call for attention from people to pay attention to him, just like his pranks were. At that time he hadn't cared if the attention was positive or negative. That attention had provided respite to him from his lonely existence where his existence was ignored by everybody. Try as he might, Naruto could not deny the truth in Inoichi-san's words about his relationship with Sasuke, and so he just said sadly, "I know that Sasuke never considered me a true friend, but he was the first one among my classmates to even consider me a rival or something of that sort, even though it was not a healthy relationship. I was content with any sort of relationship I could have. I will try to follow your advice, But it will take me time to cut off all ties with him and consider him just a traitor. You are right, I don't want to repeat the mistake that the old man made with Orochimaru. The next time I meet Sasuke, I will give him exactly one chance to return to Konoha peacefully. If he refuses, then I will treat him like any other traitor and I will put him down. Good, Naruto. You are using your brain. It is going to be hard trying to think about people you considered friends, however misguided that assumption might be, to be your enemies now, but you need to face the truth and come to terms with it, Inoichi said in a happy tone of voice. As he was happy that Naruto had finally opened his eyes to Sasuke's true character. He was sure that with a little bit of time and the loving care of Shizen and Tsunade-sama, Naruto would get over his fixation on his friendship with the way Inoichi was thankful for the Genjutsu accident the previous day, as it had made Naruto experience all the negative incidents and feelings that he had been suppressing, and now Naruto was taking the words he had been telling him for the past few sessions more seriously. Now let's wrap up this session for now. We will continue day after tomorrow. And Naruto, keep in mind what we discussed in this session, and try to implement them in your life, Inoichi said, as it was time for his next appointment. Naruto bade goodbye to Inoichi-san, as he went on his way to his cave in the mountains and continued his new physical workout routine in the cave. While his clones worked on chakra control exercises, especially the new one he had created recently, of sticking stones and leaves of various sizes and weights to various parts of his body. Naruto had finally perfected walking on water, and now he was making his clones try improvising it by making them try to skate on water using only his chakra, while he sparred with his clones for it on water, so that it became something he could do subconsciously, and no longer needed to pay any specific attention in order to be able to walk, run and fight on water. His goal was to be able to fight on water, as well as he could fight on land. 2 days later, Inoichi's office. Naruto was back in Inoichi's office for his session, and was waiting for Inoichi to start their session. Truthfully speaking, Naruto was dreading this session as he remembered how the last session went the day before yesterday. He had gotten his whole belief system shook. He was fearing what today's session might entail. He had still not come to terms with his revelations regarding his so-called friendship with Sasuke. Friendship my ass, Naruto scoffed internally. Inoichi entered his office and saw Naruto waiting for him. He took a seat and addressed Naruto, saying, "Okay Naruto, you are here, good. Today we will evaluate your relationship with everyone you know. Just like we evaluated your relationship with Sasuke in our previous session. Let's start with your relationship with your other teammate Sakura. I will ask you questions and you will give me your honest answers, and don't try to give me false answers in hopes of showing someone else as a bad person." "Okay, then let's start this," said Inoichi. "So, how do you feel about Sakura Haruno?" asked Inoichi. Naruto immediately blurted out, "Sakura-chan is super beautiful and super nice. I love her." "Really Naruto, when was the last time she was nice to you, except when she wanted something from you? Like the time she used your liking for her to make you promise to bring back Sasuke, even though she knew that Sasuke was a traitor. Did she even inquire about how your health was when you were in the hospital? Did she ever congratulate you when you achieved something? Did she ever thank you for helping her or for encouraging her? Answer me truthfully, Naruto," Inoichi asked seriously, as from what he saw, Naruto was basically in an abusive relationship with Team 7, and he wanted Naruto to get out of it. That team itself should never have been constituted. From what he knew, the Sandaime was against the composition of that team, but Kakashi had emotionally blackmailed him into letting him train the last loyal Uchiha, and his sensei's son, and among them he had clearly favored the Uchiha, while using Naruto as a stepping stone to keep Sasuke happy and trained him in everything he wanted. And Sakura was the classic definition of an abusive girlfriend, constantly assaulting Naruto whenever he said anything, and only being good to him when she wanted something from him. Inoichi wanted Naruto to realize this truth and cut all ties with Team 7. Naruto put on his thinking face and thought over all his interactions with Sakura since their time in the academy, and realized to his horror that he had deluded himself into thinking that Sakura was even his friend. She had never even treated him like a human being. Choking back a sob, Naruto said, "You are right, Inoichi-san. Sakura was never good to me. When I was on Team 7, if I ever learned anything before Sasuke, on the only occasion that Kakashi-sensei trained us as a team, instead of solely training Sasuke, which was the tree walking exercise, she would berate me saying that I was trying to look cool like Sasuke. She has never congratulated me or even wished me good luck. She never even thanked me for the number of times that I had saved her life while on missions. She even had the gall to congratulate and thank Sasuke for defeating Gaara during the invasion, when it was me who defeated Gaara and saved both Sakura and Sasuke. She has not even asked me how I was feeling after getting out of the hospital. She never even visited me in the hospital. It has been nearly a month since that disastrous mission, and the only time she came to see me was to tell me that we would not give up on Sasuke, and that we would bring him back. She never even inquired how I was doing. Naruto, I am glad that you finally realized the truth of your relationship with Sakura. Now tell me, why did you start obsessing over Sakura? At first, it was because I had saved her from some bullies and she said that we were friends. This was a few days before we joined the academy, mind you. But after joining the academy, when I tried to talk to her, happy that I had a friend in my class, she refused to even talk to me, saying that her mother had told her to avoid me, saying that I was bad. I initially respected her wishes and left her alone, but when I saw her making many friends and becoming popular, I thought that if I could make a popular girl her like me, then maybe the other villagers would also eventually like me. I now know that I was foolish, but at that time I would have done almost anything to alleviate my loneliness. But I guess to Sakura, I was just a convenient punching bag she uses to make herself feel better and nothing else, said Naruto, in a slightly depressed voice. Inoichi nodded his head in understanding and said, "Now, let us talk about your Jounin-sensei, Kakashi. Tell me your thoughts about him." Naruto's face scrunched up in anger, as he said heatedly, "I hate that man. He is no sensei of mine. The only thing he ever taught me was tree walking, in the 6 months I spent on his genin squad. I have seen him training Sasuke privately, while he utterly neglected to train me and Sakura. And while Sakura was perfectly happy to not train, I can't remember the number of times I had begged the man to train me. But he always sidestepped my requests, saying that my basics were not strong, but he never tried to correct them. He taught a number of fire jutsu ans, also his personal creation, the Chidori, to Sasuke, who already had a clan library full of jutsu, while he didn't teach me, an orphan with no other resource other than his Jounin-sensei, to learn the shinobi skills, Jack's hit. And whenever any dispute happened on the team, he seemed to blame me for it, even though it was started by Sakura and Sasuke. He never interfered when those two were abusing me, but the moment I tried to retaliate against his precious Sasuke, I would be reprimanded by him and beaten into the ground by Sakura. Even when I qualified for the final round of the Chunin exams, he pawned me off to Ebisu for training, knowing that Ebisu hated me. That idiot Ebisu made me walk on boiling hot water, without even explaining the concept behind water walking. When Sasuke attacked with the Chidori on the hospital rooftop after Tsunade Bachan healed him, I defended myself by forming a Rasengan in my hand. Kakashi arrived at that moment and took away Sasuke with him, while he scolded me for using the Rasengan on a comrade, and said that Jiraiya should not have taught me an A-ranked jutsu, all the while ignoring the fact that he had taught Sasuke an A-ranked assassination jutsu. I have never met a bigger hypocrite than him. He always says that those who break the rules are trash, and those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash, but seems to have no issues with abandoning his other two students, and clearly favoring his precious Uchiha. The man didn't even visit me once, when I was in the hospital. As Naruto calmed down after his rant about Kakashi, and took a few calming breaths, Inoichi pondered over Naruto's words and came to the conclusion that he would have to talk to Tsunade-sama about removing Naruto from Team 7, after he passes his genin test, as it seemed to be a very unhealthy environment for Naruto. Inoichi was sad to see that he was right when he recommended to the Sandaime about the disaster waiting to happen. That was the composition of Team 7 and Kakashi not being suitable to be a Jounin-sensei. Okay Naruto, let's talk about your relationship with the Sandaime, now. Describe your relationship with the Sandaime? Asked Inoichi. I used to consider him my grandfather in all but blood. I used to think that he also loved me like his own grandson, but I have seen how he treats Konohamaru. What he had for me was not love, but just pity. Do you know the number of times I complained to him about how the academy instructors were treating me? I have lost count. But he never took it seriously, even when I told him that the academy instructors were sabotaging my test scores. When I asked him for help in my shinobi training, he never helped me, saying that it would be favoritism if he helped me. I don't get what he was trying to say. Everyone has parents or guardians to train them outside the academy, if the academy instructors don't help them. He was the only one I had. There would have been no favoritism even if G helped me. All clan children get outside training from their clansmen. I have even seen the Sandaime train his grandson Konohamaru. On occasion. I guess his rule of not allowing favoritism doesn't apply to his grandson, who also has an elite tutor in Ebisu who is teaching him the shinobi arts even before he has graduated from the academy. Do you know the number of times I begged him to tell me why the villagers hated me? In the end, it was a traitor who told me the truth. The Sandaime's justification for not telling me was that he wanted me to have a happy childhood. Ha! What happy childhood? Do you know that I spent an entire year living on the streets of Konoha, scavenging food from bins, just to survive, after the matron of the orphanage I used to live in had kicked me out on my 6th birthday? It was then that the Sandaime first found me and had the bright idea to let a 7-year-old child live on his own in a rundown apartment in the red light district. And I had to pay double the rent required to stay even in that shitty apartment. I had to pay double the actual price to buy anything in Konoha, and that too in the only shops that used to sell me anything, as most of the shop owners just used to kick me out. The Sandaime knew all that and he never lifted a finger to help me, saying that those were all civilian matters. He was the Hokage, damn it. Konoha is a military dictatorship. He could have easily helped me if he had the balls to do what was necessary. And then he used to act as if everything would be okay if he buyed me a few bowls of ramen a week. So, to me the Sandaime was an old man who had good intentions but didn't have the balls to help me when he could have done a lot, said Naruto. This was something that Inoichi agreed with, as he knew that the Sandaime had not done all he could have done to ensure a happy life for Naruto, but he also agreed with Naruto that in his second term as the Hokage, the Sandaime was just a tired old man who had done the best he could with all the opposition he had faced from the civilian council, which had usurped a lot of power in the aftermath of the Yondaime's death and had opposed any plans to make Naruto's life at least a little easier, and they were supported by Danzo and the two elders Hamura and Koharu, who wanted Naruto under Danzo's control. If they had pulled this bullshit during the Sandaime's first term, he would have executed them all. But he was not in a position to do anything of that sort in the aftermath of the damage done to Konoha during the Kyubii attack. He knew that the Sandaime had genuinely considered Naruto as his grandson, but now that he thought about it, the Sandaime would never have allowed his own grandson to be treated like Naruto was treated. From there, the topic moved forward to his classmates, and it was safe to say that Naruto didn't have anything good to say about any of his classmates. They are clearly not my friends. None of them even had the decency to see how I was doing in the hospital. Not even Shikamaru, who was the team leader during the Sasuke retrieval mission, checked in on me to find out my condition. I know that he had sat outside of Choji's room for nearly an entire day, till he found out that he was out of danger. But he couldn't spare even a few minutes to visit me in the hospital. It is clear to see that he didn't consider me a friend, like I considered him. All the rookies had been discharged from the hospital before me. But none of them visited me in the hospital, or even talked to me after I was discharged and was removed from the shinobi forces. None of them even offered to help me. Even Hinata spent hours together looking after Niji, a person who nearly killed her, but couldn't spare a few minutes to check in on me. A person who fought to avenge her even had the gall to try to insult me about my demotion from the shinobi forces. Even Lee, whom I used to respect a lot, didn't visit me, even though it was me who convinced Tsunade Bachan to come back to the village and heal him, Kakashi and Sasuke. I was the one, along with Shikamaru, who stopped Gaara from killing Lee when he was in the hospital after the preliminaries after the second round. So, it is easy to say that I don't consider them my friends any longer. You know what is funny, now that I think about it, for all that I consider them my friends, I don't remember any one of them ever inviting me to hang out with them, or even invite me to their birthday parties, to which they used to invite the entire class except me. I don't know if it was due to their parents not wanting the Kyubii Jinchuriki in their house, or if they themselves didn't want my presence at their birthday parties. I don't know. Hell, not one of them even used to want their lunch with me. You won't believe the number of times I had cried myself to sleep, thinking about the times all my classmates used to spend time together with each other while playing or just hanging out, while I was always excluded from everything and treated like a leper. If these people are supposed to be my friends, then I don't know what enemies look like. They are fellow Konoha shinobi to me, nothing more, said Naruto with a sneer on his face, at the very thought of his so-called friends. Inoichi felt a little uncomfortable at this admission of Naruto, as his daughter was also one of those classmates whose behavior Naruto had just described. Moving on, Naruto, I want you to describe your relationship with Tsunade-sama and Shizen-san? Well, Tsunade-bachan is like what I always imagined my mother would be like. She would have loved me dearly but would also have kicked my ass if I did something idiotic. You know, Tsunade-bachan and Shizen-chan are two people who have always been honest with me, from the moment I met them. They have done more for me in the past few months I have known them, than most people have during my entire life. Those two people are my family. They never had any obligation to help me, but they have helped me in every way that they can. Shizen-chan is my elder sister, that is all there is to say about that relationship. You don't know how much their support meant to me in this time of turmoil for me. They treat me like an adult, presenting all the available options to me and letting me decide on the things that affect my life. You know, Tsunade-bachan gave me her grandfather, the Shodai Hokage's necklace, which was worth 2 mountains of gold, just because she believed in me. I think that she is the first person along with Shizen-chan and Anko-sensei to believe in me to achieve my goals. All the others whom I know always gave me the feeling that they were just humoring me. Basically, according to me, Tsunade-bachan and Shizen-chan along with Anko-sensei are family. I would do anything for them. Inoichi knew that Naruto would keep his word on that, as he saw that same steely look in his electric blue eyes that he had seen in the Yandame's eyes before he headed to a battle. Inoichi knew that Naruto would burn down the world for those three. Who all are the other people whom you consider close to you, Naruto? Describe your relationship with them to me? The only 2 other people whom I consider close to me are Tsuchi Ajisen and Ayame-chan of the Ichiraku ramen stall. They found me one day when I was living on the streets, and trying to search for food in a bin behind their stall. Ayame-chan bathed me and fed me. Even though they lost a few customers because I came to their stall to eat, they still fed me free of cost for nearly 6 months. When I tried to leave so that they would not lose income, they just said that helping an innocent, harmless child was worth a lot more than some money to them. They fed me a lot of times free of cost even after the Sandame gave me an apartment and an allowance, as I had to buy groceries at nearly double the cost from the few shops that sold goods to me. I don't think that I will ever be able to repay my debt to them. Where the whole village saw a demon getting its just desserts, they both saw an innocent little boy struggling to survive on the streets. Those both are my family. I also used to have a friend whom I used to call Tenny, in the orphanage. But she was adopted a few days before the orphanage matron kicked me out. She was my first and only friend in the orphanage. She used to play with me and spend time with me, despite the warnings of the matron for all the children to stay away from me. I haven't seen her. Fact, I can no longer remember her face and voice clearly. It has been nearly 8 years since I last saw her, said Naruto in a wistful tone. He still fondly remembered the shenanigans he and Tenny used to get up to in the orphanage. Usually Tenny was the one who used to drag him along on her shenanigans, but the matron of the orphanage only used to punish him if they were caught. But Naruto never minded that, as in his mind playing and spending time with his first and only friend was worth any punishment given to him by the matron. And what about Iruka, Naruto? I thought that you were close to him, asked Inoichi. Iruka treated me just like the other teachers, till my final year in the academy. He never noticed the other teachers screwing me over, including his assistant Mizuki. Even after he started treating me like any other student, he never helped me with my studies, only ever saying that I needed to work harder. He never helped me outside class, saying that it would be favoritism. He only ever saw me as a dope with potential, said Naruto, making air quotes in the air at the word potential. He acted like he deserved a reward for treating me like a human. Me something, Inoichi-san. Would you respect someone for treating you like a human being? Asked Naruto. Inoichi nodded his head in agreement at Naruto's assessment of his relationship with Iruka. But he made a note of the friend in the orphanage that Naruto mentioned. HR noted down her name to search through the adoption records to see if he could locate her. It would do Naruto good to have another friend in his life. Inoichi saw the clock on the wall and said, "Sorry Naruto, but that's all for this session. I have to go to the ANBU headquarters. I have some work to do. Now I have something for you to do. I want you to maintain a diary, and write all about your day, every day in that diary. And everything you write should be truthful. It will help you to come to terms with whatever happened to you on that day, as you write about it and analyze that event thoroughly. Now you can go. We will meet again after your genin exam." Naruto bade his goodbye and exited the office, glad that the session was over, as it had been very emotionally draining, for he was very glad to get all his thoughts out there, instead of agonizing over them himself. It was still emotionally draining to realize that the number of people who genuinely care about you can be counted on one hand. Well, at least he was feeling much better emotionally than he had been in some time since the time he had woken up in the hospital after the Sasuke retrieval mission. Naruto went to his personal training grounds in the hills, and went about his physical conditioning, as the intense physical activity would calm down his raging thoughts and give him focus. The rest of the day passed in similar fashion, with him working on the physical side of things, while his shadow clones worked on his studies, ninjutsu and chakra control. 1 week later, Training Ground 44. Naruto leapt into the air to avoid a sweeping kick from Anko, and launched a kunai at her, and made a single hand seal and intoned Kunai Kage Bunshin, making the single kunai multiply into 40 kunai. Anko exhaled a mighty gust of wind, scattering the kunai launched at her, and then launched a fireball at Naruto. Naruto instinctively substituted with a rock behind Anko and launched a kick at her spine, which she caught and tried to bash Naruto into the ground using that leg. But Naruto simply swung his other leg and delivered a sideways kick to her midsection, making her grunt in discomfort. Anko launched a few snakes from her sleeves at Naruto, and they squeezed him hard, only for him to burst into smoke, revealing him to be a clone. Anko suddenly tilted her head to the side, narrowly dodging a perfect Konoha senpu to her head, revealing Naruto, who immediately shunned shine behind her and attempted to cut the back of her knees with a kunai. He succeeded, but it turned out that the Anko whom he was fighting was also a shadow clone. Taking Naruto's surprise as an opportunity, Anko suddenly appeared behind Naruto at her full speed and caught his head in a chokehold, only for him to burst into an explosion, carrying Anko away and making her crash hard into a tree. The original Naruto appeared from behind a tree and approached the doomed Anko to make sure that she was alright, but suddenly found himself neck deep in the ground, with a kunai at his. Looked closely, and saw that Anko was only slightly injured and had used his concern for her against him. In his haste to make sure that she was alright, he had not used his sensory ability to check for any more clones waiting in ambush and had fallen for a trap. The real Anko casually rose from the place where she was acting like she was severely injured and walked towards the restrained Naruto and said, "And that, Naruto, is another lesson that you should always remember. Don't let your heart make decisions in a battle. Never take anything you see in a shinobi battle to be truth, always double-check everything. Now let's get you out of the earth." After pulling him out of the earth, Anko observed him and said, "Good going, Gaki. You were defeated handily, but you still didn't suffer from a single injury. I am impressed, so I am going to teach you a simple jutsu, the Kanashibari Jutsu, which temporarily paralyzes your opponent when you activate this jutsu while making eye contact with your enemy. This is a D-rank jutsu in its basic form, but the effectiveness of the technique depends on your chakra reserves and how much chakra you use. This jutsu revolves around the concept of impressing your chakra reserves over that of your opponent, making him paralyzed. This is a very useful jutsu, and while using on higher-ranked opponents, even if you could only paralyze him for a single second, that is all the time you need to kill an opponent in a shinobi battle, as a shinobi battle is all about speed. 1 second of carelessness leads to death. I want you to master this jutsu before the remaining week before your genin exam is over. We will also be working on training you to suppress your chakra signature, something that is very important. Your other fields of training are progressing very well. Your training weighs are at 120 for each leg, which is a very good improvement from where you were 3 weeks ago. You have mastered the Kawarimi, the Henge, and also the illusion Bunshin. Your chakra control is very good for someone with your chakra reserves. Your Bukijutsu training is also progressing well. You are able to hit the target with a 100% accuracy for both stationary as well as a moving target. You have mastered the Shadow Clone Jutsu as well as the Exploding Shadow Clone. Your progress with the Kanai Kage Bunshin is also impressive. It is safe to say that you are completely ready to pass your Genin exam. Use the next week to make sure that you are in tip-top shape and make sure that all your skills are sharp. Dedicate some shadow clones to practice the Kanashibari Jutsu, as it will come in handy. 6 days later. 195. 196. 197. 198. 199. 200. With a sigh of relief, Naruto flipped off from the roof, where he was attached via his legs using chakra and doing pull-ups over an open fire. He had finally finished 200 repetitions of each exercise and conditioning routine. He lay there in peace for a few minutes, letting his body rest from the physical exertion. He got up from his prone position on the ground of the cave he had started to use as his training ground and walked towards the small stream which flowed a few feet from the mouth of the cave, and dunked his head in the stream of cold water. The ice-cold water washed away all the exhaustion, and he raised his head from the water and shook it like a dog trying to dry its wet fur. As Naruto put on his clothes, as he had been exercising in just his boxers to avoid making his jumpsuit smell like sweat, he pondered over the progress he had made in the past month. He had increased the weights on his legs to 130 kilograms each. He had mastered all the 3 Academy Jutsu, now being able to do them without any hand seals and without any chakra wastage, i.e., no chakra smoke was released when the jutsu was used by him. He was still working on refining his use of the Kawarimi, as he wanted to be able to replace himself with a kunai, but his chakra control would require further refinement before he could achieve that. He estimated that it would require another month of intensive chakra control training before he could possibly master that skill. He would need to master at least kunai balancing before he could work on that. But he still kept practicing that, but it was taking him too much time to perform such a substitution, so it was not useful in battle, and it was wasting chakra. He had finally managed to form a single sealless illusion clone. He had also managed to perform the Kanai Kage Bunshin Jutsu seallessly. And Tsunade Bachan had beaten into him to not shout out the name of his jutsu, as it didn't make any difference if you didn't shout out the name of your jutsu, other than alerting your enemy of your next move. Tsunade Bachan had beaten into his head 5 rules of combat, which she called Tsunade's rules of combat. They were: 1. Always attack first. 2. Never let your opponent catch his slasher. Rhythm in a surrender the initiative to an enemy in a fight. 3. Don't shout out the names of your moves. 4. And don't stand around watching to see if your jutsu worked. Move on to your next move. 5. There is no such thing as overkill in the shinobi world. Naruto had done his best to incorporate those rules during his combat training and spars with his clones as well as with Anko sensei, or even with Shizen Nei-chan and Tsunade Bachan. Though sparring with Tsunade Bachan was just trying to avoid her mountain-breaking blows, at this point, as he was nowhere near even making Tsunade Bachan take him seriously in a fight. It was basically him trying to avoid getting kicked around. But he vowed to himself that he would defeat her one day. It was a great goal to work towards. The practice of the Kanashibari Jutsu was also coming along nicely. Anko sensei had him working on it on the animals on the Forest of Death. According to her, he could successfully use it on any genin level opponent. He was still trying to improve its usage. As far as genjutsu detection was concerned, he could now immediately detect a genjutsu being cast on him, and could dispel any genjutsu below B rank with ease. His poison resistance training with Shizen Nei-chan was also progressing well, according to Shizen Nei-chan. His sensory range had increased to 400 m. He could now sense individual chakra signatures and the level and nature of their chakra. Overall, Naruto was very confident in his ability to pass the genin test. Naruto intended to spend today and tomorrow solely on physical conditioning, while his shadow clones worked on revising everything needed for the exam. Night before the genin exam, Naruto had winded down his preparations for the genin exam and was on his way to dinner, so that he could catch a good night's sleep before the day of the exam, to make sure that he was suitably rested. Naruto found both Shizune-chan and Tsunade-bachan already waiting for him in the dining room. "What are you both doing here this early? Don't you have work?" "Well, Naruto, I wanted to know how you were feeling for your exam. So I came home early and brought Shizune with me. So, answer me honestly, how are you feeling?" asked Tsunade. "I am very confident in my chances to pass the genin exam. I have never been more confident in anything. Shizune-chan and Anko-sensei have made sure that I have mastered everything that I need to pass the exam. I am actually more than ready to pass the exam. I was not this strong even when I participated in the Chunin exams," said Naruto, with a soft smile on his face. This was something that both Naruto and Tsunade had both noticed. Naruto's exuberant personality had become a lot more controlled and his smiles were no longer those beaming rays of sunshine, but they found these new soft smiles of his to be more genuine and appreciated them a lot more, as they felt more heartfelt. "Well, Naruto, you should report to the Hokage's training ground at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And don't be late," said Tsunade. Naruto quickly finished his dinner and meditated for an hour before turning to bed. Chapter 8: The Genin Exam. Day of the exam. A shrill sound rang out in of the guest quarters of the Senju compound, shattering the peaceful sleep of one Naruto Uzumaki, and a hand immediately shut it down, as Naruto immediately woke up. He was too wound up to sleep anymore. Naruto quickly finished his morning routine and immediately went to his personal cave and started his physical exercise routine, as it would calm down his nerves and also because he didn't want any break in his training routine, unless absolutely necessary, like when he was on a mission. As Naruto took a bath after his grueling exercise routine, he pondered over the strange incident that had happened yesterday as he was winding down his training and had run into a member of Guy's team. Flashback. As Naruto finished his training for the day and was about to depart to his home, he sensed someone entering his training ground, someone whose chakra signature he couldn't recognize. Now this intrigued him, as other than himself, Anko-sensei and Shizune-chan, no one usually came to this isolated training ground, as it was quite a distance from the village and right next to the dangerous forest of death. Curious to see who it was, Naruto waited for them and was surprised to see Tenten, who was Lee's teammate. He had never had much interaction with her, he had never even talked to her. The first time he had seen her was when he saw her fight against Temari in the preliminary round of the Chunin exams. From what he saw, she seemed to specialize in ninja weapons, but unfortunately her matchup was against the wind user. There couldn't have been a worse matchup for her. But she seemed fairly competent to him, and not a useless fangirl like Sakura and Ino. Naruto, who was suppressing his chakra signature, came out of the tree line, from where he was hiding, when he saw that she looked to be searching for something. "Well, this is a surprise. I didn't know that anyone other than myself came to this far-flung training ground to train?" asked Naruto, taking her by surprise as she hadn't seen him, or anyone for that matter, in the training ground, in the few minutes since she had arrived. She immediately threw a couple of kunai at Naruto, on reflex. But she saw Naruto casually dodging her kunai. She was surprised but quickly recovered and said, "Don't surprise me like that. I could have killed you. Anyway, I am here to see you. I just returned from a month-long diplomatic mission from Kusa. I heard that you were severely injured on a mission. So I came to check up on you and help you with your preparation for your genin exam. I owe you one anyway, as you brought back Tsunade-sama, who healed Lee. So how are you doing? It cannot be easy being almost killed by your friend and then being removed from the shinobi forces?" Now, it was Naruto's turn to be surprised. In the past 1 month, not one of his so-called friends, not even his teammate and sensei, had come to see him. But here she was, a complete stranger, inquiring about his health and well-being, and offering her help, solely due to the fact that he had helped her teammate, whereas that same teammate of hers whom he had helped didn't even have the decency to even thank him. After his status as an ex-demon container had been announced to the village at large, now that the Sandame's law had been repealed, as there was no need for it now, not a single friend of his had even talked to him. Well, I guess there are decent people in my generation, thought Naruto. As Naruto was immersed in his thoughts, he saw that Tenten was still waiting for his answer and decided not to keep her waiting for his response, and said, "Yeah, I am fine now. But it took 2 weeks to make a complete recovery. And as far as preparations for my upcoming Genin exam are concerned, the exams are tomorrow and I have prepared for them, as best as I could. There is nothing more that I cannot do anyway. But thanks for offering your help anyway. You are the first person other than Tsunade Ba-chan, Shizen Ne-chan and Anko sensei who have even cared to help me. I have not even spoken to even one of my classmates in this past 1 month." Tenten had no idea how to respond to that. She hadn't expected everyone to abandon him after being gravely injured and then having his shinobi license revoked. Hearing that no one had checked up on him, not even his teammate and sensei, had taken her by surprise. She had at least expected Lee to visit and talk to Naruto, to thank him. But it seems that Lee was too busy with his training to get back in shape, to thank the one who brought the person who healed him back to the village. She had expected better from him. From there, they both got into a talk about how their respective teams, and Naruto asked, "So how is your team? Has Niji removed that stick lodged up his ass, and stopped spouting that stupid fate crap?" "Well, for a time he started behaving normally, but after it came out that you were a Jinchuriki, he again started spouting that you had cheated to defeat him, when you were fated to lose at his hands, by using the Biju's chakra, and so fate had punished you. So, no, in your words, he hasn't stopped spouting that fate crap. It becomes tiring after a while to listen to all that bullshit," replied Tenten with an exasperated expression on her face. "So your sensei and your pink-haired teammate really didn't visit you?" asked Tenten. "No, they didn't. Well, they were always focused on that traitorous Uchiha, to give a damn about me. Kakashi has not thought anything but tree walking in the nearly 6 months that I was on his team," said Naruto through gritted teeth, as felt his blood boil whenever TSE2 were mentioned. Even though Guy-sensei spends most of his time training with Lee or occasionally sparring with Niji, he at least taught me some basic taijutsu. But he doesn't seem to understand that I come from a civilian family, and I don't have access to a clan library like Niji. He has still not taught me a single jutsu. All the weapon skills you saw me using during the Chunin exams, I learnt them on my own. But at least I know that they will have my back when I am in danger, if nothing else," said Tenten in an understanding voice, and squeezing his shoulder in sympathy to his plight. "Well, Niji is not the only one bragging about how I only defeated him by using the Kyuubi's chakra. A few days previously, I overheard Kiba bragging about how I was a cheater, and how he could have easily defeated me if I didn't have the Kyuubi sealed within me. My chakra control was haywire when I fought him, due to a seal placed on me by Orochimaru, and anyway I didn't even use Kyuubi's chakra in the fight against him, to begin with. I guess he was trying to cover his inadequate skills by blaming someone else, the bloody mutt," said Naruto. "And also I don't see what the problem was with me using the Kyuubi's chakra to win, even if let's assume that I did it. No one has any problem with Sasuke using his Sharingan, Niji using his Byakugan or anything else like that. The Kyuubi's chakra was also a tool I had at my disposal, and I uses it like any good shinobi. So, I am not going to listen and take into account the insinuations and complaints of sore losers," said Naruto with a firm voice, as he had made a commitment to himself to never again let the fear of someone's judgment or perception affect his behavior or his actions. "Well, anyway, I think it is time for me to go home, as I want to turn in early today and have a full night's sleep before tomorrow's exam. So, if you will excuse me, I will be on my way. And again, thank you for your concern about my health and your offer to help me train. I wouldn't mind sparring with you occasionally, if you don't mind?" asked Naruto. "Well, it's okay then. Good luck, Naruto," said Tenten. "Thank you, Tenten." "Tebeo!" exclaimed Naruto, and then shut his mouth in embarrassment. He had been trying to get rid of his verbal tic, but it kept popping up at the most inopportune moments. Tenten, who was about to walk away, suddenly froze in shock. There was only one person she knew who had such a verbal tic, and she hadn't met him, or even talked to him in nearly 7 years. She hadn't known what had happened to him. She had nightmares of her first friend being killed in the Sand Sound invasion. She could no longer recall what his face looked like, it had been too many years, but she still remembered his weird verbal tic she used to tease him about, and the whisker marks on his cheeks, which if she looked very carefully, could be found on Naruto's face. With a tentative voice full of hope, she called out, "Whiskers, is that you?" using the name she used to call her friend by. Now, it was Naruto's turn to be shocked. Only one person had ever called him that. Slowly turning around to face her, he asked with tears shimmering in his eyes, "Panda-chan?" He really hoped that he had finally found his friend after so many years. When he had almost given up hope of ever finding her, he could no longer remember how her face even looked like. He only had a recollection of some faint fond memories with her in the orphanage. Naruto found himself tackled by a crying brunette. He took a step back to keep himself from falling down from the impact, and his hands automatically rose to curl around the crying brunette who was hugging the stuffing out of him. Naruto simply hugged her back tightly, reveling in the feeling of finding her after all these years. He rubbed her back soothingly, just like Shizune-chan did to him when he was distressed. It took him a few minutes, but he finally managed to calm her down. What followed was them talking about their lives after leaving the orphanage. When Tenten heard all about what had befallen Naruto after she had gotten adopted from the orphanage, it made her blood boil, and when she heard how his teammates treated him, she made up her mind to give that pink-haired bitch he called his teammate a piece of her mind when she next met her. When Naruto saw her cursing his teammates and sensei, he decided to take her mind of that, and said, "No wonder you are so good with weapons. Even when we were little, you had an unhealthy fascination with sharp objects and a very good aim." Remembering her fascination with knives and her awfully good aim when she had hit 3 older boys who were bullying him, with small rocks right in the forehead. After a while, Naruto decided to wrap up their reunion and head home as he wanted to turn in early today. So, they wrapped up their unplanned reunion with great reluctance, and they went their separate ways, with the promise to meet the next day after his genin exam. As Naruto got out of the shower and put on his orange jumpsuit, he centered his thoughts and brought himself out of the events of the previous day. He had still not come to terms with finding his friend after these many years, so he had not told anyone about the events. But he decided to shove those thoughts to the back of his mind as he had more important things to focus his attention on. After he wrapped some linen bandages around his palms and putting on his sandals, Naruto quickly had the light breakfast that Shizune-chan had laid out for him and took off for the Hokage's training ground. As Naruto reached there, he found Shizune-chan waiting for him. "Good, you're here, Naruto. We will be having your test in the academy. Since it is a weekend, there will be no students present. And we can have all aspects of your test at one place. So let's go," Shizune said and placed a hand on his shoulder and used the shunshin to take them both to the academy. He found Iruka waiting for him in his aisled classroom. He was immediately handed a test paper, and he sat at a bench and got to work on solving it. The questions were quite easy, much to Naruto's relief. That eased his nerves. The questions were basically like: who was the first Hokage of Konoha? What were the famous jutsu of the Yondaime Hokage? What was the second Hokage famous for? Whom did the first Hokage fight with at the Valley of the End? What are the 5 basic elemental chakra natures? Name 5 minor shinobi villages? What are Suna shinobi famous for? What are Aim shinobi famous for? Who gave the title of the Sannin to the 3 Sannin? How many bija are there? What was the Kekkai Genkai of the first Hokage? And things like that. The history part was easy enough, and the science and maths part took a while to solve, but Naruto didn't have any problem solving them. He was sure that he had scored a perfect score on his theory test. It was not something that Naruto had ever thought would happen. Naruto handed over his paper to Iruka and headed over to the sparring grounds at the back of the academy for the next part of his test. He only had to wait for about 10 minutes before Iruka came out after correcting his test paper. And from the happy expression on Iruka's face, Naruto knew that he had done well. Iruka then took Naruto to the practice range and tested Naruto's Bukijutsu, and Naruto managed to hit all 10 targets in the bullseye and even hit the vital spots on each dummy for bonus marks. He received full marks for both kunai as well as shuriken throwing. Naruto didn't find it that difficult as he had mastered throwing kunai and shuriken at stationary targets, and was currently working on his aim with moving targets. Naruto had found that he had a talent for kunai throwing and wielding dual kunai to fight, but Naruto wanted to learn Kenjutsu as it would give him additional reach in a fight and would give a lethal edge to his fighting style. He quickly shoved that idea to the back of his mind, making a mental note to ask Tenten's help in learning Kenjutsu. After grading Naruto's Bukijutsu, Iruka quickly told Naruto to get inside the sparring arena, and said, "Well, Naruto, in this round you have to last 5 minutes in the ring with me or knock me out or push me out of the ring. So, get ready and remember that the fight will be strictly taijutsu." Naruto quickly deactivated his chakra weights and stretched his body a little and got into the sparring ring. Shizen Nei-chan was refereeing the fight while using a stopwatch to record the duration of the fight. As soon as Shizen Nei-chan whistled sharply, indicating the start of the fight, Naruto immediately blitzed towards Iruka with his full speed, taking him by surprise, as he had not expected Naruto to improve by so much in just a month. Nevertheless, Iruka just managed to block Naruto's kick to his midsection with his forearm, but Naruto just used it as leverage to kick out at his head with his other leg. As Iruka brought his other forearm to block the kick to his head, Naruto kicked off the forearm and backflipped in the air to get some distance between himself and Iruka, before he dashed towards Iruka and delivered a 3-punch combo to his chest, which were blocked as well by Iruka. Seeing that none of his moves were working, Naruto decided to use a trick that Anko-sensei had used on him and attacked Iruka with a kick to his kidneys, which Iruka blocked. Naruto tried to land a rising kick with his left leg, and as Iruka raised his hand to block a kick to his face, as he assumed that was where Naruto was aiming, as Naruto had used the same move at the start of the fight. But Naruto just smirked and changed the direction of the kick, hitting Iruka hard in his gonads. As Iruka collapsed to the ground, crying out in agony as he clutched his crotch, Naruto immediately blurred forward and chopped him the back of his neck, rendering him unconscious. Shizen, who was refereeing the fight, had to hold back a cringe when she saw Naruto's brutal kick to Iruka's crotch. She had an idea of where Naruto had learned that move. Shizen raised a hand and whistled to signify the end of the fight, when Naruto rendered Iruka unconscious. "Shausa, Uzumaki Naruto," she announced loudly and then moved to heal Iruka. As Iruka regained consciousness, he found that the pain in his balls had subsided. He thanked Shizen-san and addressed Naruto, saying, "Good Naruto, you defeated me in approximately 1.5 minutes. Now it is time for your ninjutsu exam. I want you to demonstrate the henge first." Naruto quickly complied, and with a shimmer of air, Naruto's form was replaced with that of Tsunade Bachan. Iruka inspected Naruto's transformed form and said, "Good Naruto, it was perfect. And you did without the use of any hand seals, and no chakra smoke. Now I want you to demonstrate your use of the kawarimi." Naruto was replaced by a log of wood, without any prior warning, taking Iruka by surprise with Naruto's expertise with the kawarimi jutsu. "Very well done, Naruto. Now I want you to demonstrate the clone jutsu," asked Iruka. And Naruto simply used a single hand seal, and 5 illusionary clones appeared around him, with a shimmer of air. Iruka marked down Naruto's success in the test, and said, "You have passed comfortably, Naruto. Now you can head over to Hokage-sama's office to await your results. And congratulations on your success, Naruto. I am proud of you." Naruto embarrassedly scratched the back of his head. He was still not used to praise from anybody. But he quickly recovered his composure and said, "Thank you, Iruka-sensei, but most of the credit goes to Shizen Nei-chan and Anko-sensei. They were the ones who guided me and made my improvement possible. Now I have to go and meet Tsunade Bachan, so if you will excuse us." Saying this, Naruto and Shizen left for the Hokage's office. Hokage's office, Tsunade. To say Tsunade was impressed with Naruto's progress was an understatement. She had expected him to pass the test, but she never expected him to defeat Iruka. Even though it was not a fair fight, but that was the point, shinobi didn't fight fairly. Naruto seemed to have learned this lesson well from Anko. He seemed to try to exploit every move of his enemy to his maximum benefit, and his taijutsu style was based around targeting the soft spots of his enemy like the throat, the 8 vital spots and crotch. He seemed to exploit every mistake made by his enemy, and make him pay the price for the mistake. Tsunade was very impressed. Now she had the task of deciding where to place him. There was no way she was going to place him back in Team 7, that was a disaster waiting to happen. She had to place him in the reserves or let a jounin take him as an apprentice. Placing him in the reserves would allow him time to work on his skills, while at the same time making him work with various teams, allowing him to acclimatize himself to working with various kinds of people. Whereas allowing someone to take him as an apprentice, allowing Naruto to get exclusive training from his sensei. She decided to hear Naruto's opinion on that, before taking a decision. But Tsunade couldn't train him as her apprentice, despite however much she wished to, as she was already training Sakura, but that didn't mean that she wouldn't help with his training. Tsunade was shook out of her inner musings when her office door burst open and a blonde blur rushed inside and hugged her tightly. Tsunade chuckled to herself, and hugged her blonde baka tightly. "So I take it from your reaction that you passed your evaluation, Naruto? And I guess that you are happy?" asked Tsunade with a knowing smirk on her face, as she extricated herself from his embrace. "You bet, Bachan!" exclaimed Naruto with a beaming smile on his face. He was really pumped up at successfully rejoining the shinobi forces. Tsunade smiled slightly at Naruto's infectious happiness, and laid out Naruto's options before him and asked, "So, what option do you prefer, Naruto?" As Naruto was going over the various pros and cons of joining the reserves or becoming an apprentice to a jounin, Shizen offered an alternative. "Tsunade-sama, I would like to take Naruto as my apprentice. I can train him in the village, while he can alternate between different teams to perform missions out of the village, when I am busy at the hospital and can't take him with me on missions. That way he will get both training as well experience working with different shinobi with varying skill sets," asked Shizen in a hopeful voice, as she really wanted to take Naruto as her apprentice. She had really enjoyed being a teacher to Naruto over this past month. Tsunade mulled over Shizen's words and had to admit that it was the best option that she could think of. She addressed Naruto asking, "What do you say, Naruto? Is this arrangement agreeable to you?" Naruto readily agreed, as he would love to become an apprentice to Shizen Nei-chan, as she was very patient and explained everything to him without becoming irritated with him when he didn't get something. With the agreement of all the parties involved, Tsunade filled in all the documents required to approve a new apprenticeship and took Naruto's and Shizen's signature, and then stamped the document with the Hokage's seal of approval, making the apprenticeship official. Before dismissing Naruto, Tsunade reached into a secret compartment of her desk and took out her grandfather's necklace and Naruto's old shinobi headband. "Here, Naruto, I have kept them safe for you. You have definitely earned them," said Tsunade, as she handed them back to Naruto. Naruto was sorely tempted to accept them, but he had decided on something and was adamant on sticking to it. Naruto answered in the negative, saying, "Bachan, I want to get a new headband, not Iruka-sensei's old one, and I will accept your necklace only after I am at least jounin level. As I now know the value of it, and I am not in a position to defend it if someone tries to take it from me. So, I want you to give it to me when I earn a promotion to jounin." Tsunade was a little disappointed on hearing Naruto's decision, but was ultimately proud of him for thinking about the consequences of his actions. While she wanted him to wear her necklace, she had to agree with Naruto on its massive value and him not being in a position to defend himself if someone outside the village tried to steal it from him, or even tried to kill him for it. Tsunade didn't respond for a few moments, but finally smiled and said, "I am happy that you are thinking about the consequences of your actions. I agree with you, and I will give my necklace to you when you become a jounin. Now go and continue your shinobi training for today. I believe that Anko is waiting for you." Naruto happily bid her and Shizen goodbye and went to his usual training ground to continue his training, as he knew that now was the time to redouble his efforts in training, as he would have less time to dedicate to training, as he would also have to perform missions, now that he was reinstated as a shinobi. As soon as Naruto entered training ground 43, he immediately swayed to his left, deftly avoiding a kick to his midsection from Anko, and he retaliated by blowing up. As Naruto emerged from the tree he was hiding in, the moment he sensed Anko, he suddenly found a kunai at his neck and Anko draped all over his back. But the Naruto in her hold just shimmered to reveal a log he had substituted with. Anko just chuckled at Naruto's perfect use of the kawarimi and suddenly turned around and blew a massive gust of wind, knocking away the 50 kunai Naruto had launched at her using the kunai kage bunshin jutsu. What followed was a furious bout of taijutsu, as Naruto mostly trying to avoid and anticipate Anko's movements, as he noticed that she was fighting him at a much higher level of speed than ever before, and trying to avoid being beaten to a pulp was all he could do, as he couldn't even follow most of her movements. It was like watching Lee's fight with Gaara during the Chunin exams. Naruto found himself massively outclassed. He tried to trick her by substituting with a few exploding shadow clones of his, but she seemed to anticipate all his moves, and by the end of their spar, Naruto found himself on the ground with his entire body feeling like a giant bruise. As Naruto slowly regained his breath, he gingerly raised his head and asked a smug-looking Anko who didn't look like she had even broken a sweat, "What was that thrashing you gave me supposed to prove, Anko-sensei?" Anko just smirked at him and said that was to make sure that you didn't get a big head after passing your exam. You have a very long way to go before you reach my level. And by the way, that move you pulled on Iruka was beautifully done. And from now on, whenever we both are free, I am going to train you intensively, as now that you are a genin, I can teach you ninjutsu, which is something you sorely lack. Saying that, she threw 2 scrolls at him. Those are the jutsu scrolls for the Great Fireball Jutsu and the Earth Wall Jutsu. Those are good, useful and simple jutsu to know for your level. I expect you to have mastered them by the end of the week. For the next month you will be doing D-rank missions, so I want you to make your clones complete those missions while you focus on your training. Increase the intensity of your physical training and also devote some clones to learning the elemental ninjutsu that I gave you. There are also some tips in the scrolls I gave you on how to safely and correctly mold fire and earth-natured chakra, especially fire-natured chakra, which is very volatile if you don't mold it properly. There are also elemental transformation exercises in those scrolls for both fire and earth, which is something that usually jounins work on, but as you have those shadow clones, I want to see if you can manage to master the nature transformation exercises, as it will greatly improve your elemental ninjutsu. I will be out of the village on a mission for the next week. By the time I return, I want to see that you have mastered those 2 jutsu I gave you. Now scram and get on with your training, Anko said, and departed the village on her mission to the land of grass to retrieve some rare poisonous plants which grew there and were used in the preparation of various poisons as well as medicines. As soon as Naruto sensed that Anko had really left, he whooped in joy at finally getting to learn elemental ninjutsu. He immediately assigned 10 clones to work on the 2 jutsu scrolls Anko had left him. 5 clones were dedicated to each jutsu. And while his shadow clones were working on the elemental jutsu, Naruto worked on completing his physical training routine for the day, and then he himself worked on the 2 elemental jutsu, while some more shadow clones worked on his chakra control. As Naruto was winding down his training for the day, he sensed Tenten's chakra signature approaching his training ground and immediately tied the new hitayat that Tsunade Bachan had given him to his forehead. Tenten had finally managed to free herself from the training maniacs, her teammate Lee and her sensei Guy. She immediately set out to Training Ground 43 to find out how Naruto had fared in his genin evaluation test, and her question was answered when she saw the brand new hitayat on Naruto's forehead. She immediately rushed towards him and hugged him tightly, saying, "Congrats, Naruto. You did it. I can see that you passed, but how did the exam go?" And Tenten was impressed with Naruto's performance and improvement in the span of just 1 month. As they were leaving for their homes, Naruto suddenly remembered something and asked Tenten, "Hey Tenten, would you mind helping me learn Kenjutsu? It will be very useful to end fights as quickly as possible, and it will also give me additional reach while fighting bigger opponents than me?" Tenten agreed immediately, as she was happy to help Naruto, and this would also give her a sparring partner to practice her own Kenjutsu. And Tenten agreed to meet you up with him every morning she was in Konoha at the same training ground, early in the morning. Agreeing to this, they both returned to their respective homes. As soon as Naruto returned home, He took a long, soothing hot shower and went to the dining room to find a veritable feast laid out for him, and that included ramen, which he was glad for, as he hasn't eaten even a single bowl of ramen for the past month, according to Shizen's instructions regarding his diet. And while Naruto knew that Shizen was right and he had even grown a couple of inches in height by following a correct balanced diet and rigorous exercise routine, he was more than happy to again sample the food of gods. Seeing Naruto's delighted expression at the sight of the food, Shizen just chuckled and said, "Well, what are you waiting for, Naruto? Don't just stand there, looking at the food, sit down and dig in. This is a celebration for you passing your exam after all." Naruto quickly sat down and dug into the dishes. After a large satisfactory meal, Shizen laid down Naruto's schedule from the next day as the official apprentice. He would continue with his training schedule as usual, but would have to send 5 shadow clones to the hospital to learn and practice Irijutsu from Shizen. She would assign the next level of chakra control exercises to them, now that he had mastered the water walking exercise and its variants like walking on water against the flow of water, walking on slippery ice, water skating, etc. After his chakra control had reached the required level for a combat medic, she would teach him more medical jutsu. Also, tomorrow morning we are going shopping, Naruto. I won't have any apprentice of mine wearing that orange eyesore of yours, Shizen said sternly. Naruto just nodded his head in agreement as he knew that there was no use in arguing with her, and he also acknowledged that orange was not a good color to wear for a shinobi. And anyway, his orange jumpsuits were beginning to become tight on his new physique. Naruto, our goal for the next 6 months is to make you strong enough to blow through the next Chunin exams in Kumo, where you will be participating alone and without a team. There will be participants from all major hidden villages except Kiri, which is going through a civil war. I want you to become strong enough to crush the competition, so that we can send out the message that Konoha is still strong, as the other villages have taken to testing our boundaries under the assumption that Konoha has become weak after the Kyubii rampage, and the recent invasion by Sand and Sound and the death of the Sandaime. So I will be working you down to the bone to get you to that level. And if you win the Chunin exams, then your promotion to Chunin is confirmed and not even the civilian council can raise a fuss about it. So, what do you say, Naruto? Are you ready to accomplish the task I have for you? Asked Tsunade. Naruto was overwhelmed by their confidence in his ability, and could only nod his head in agreement, as he felt his voice becoming choked with emotion. He was determined to justify their confidence in him and blow away all the competition. With that, everyone departed to complete their day's work, and Naruto went to his room to get started on the Fuinjutsu book written by Mito Uzumaki, that Tsunade had given him as a gift for performing well in the test. According to Tsunade Bachan, the book contained 10 levels, and only after one had passed the test at the end of each level with 100% correct answers, you could advance to the next level. From what he had learned from Tsunade Bachan, Mito Uzumaki was the wife of the Shodaime Hokage and was apparently the greatest seal master till date. Naruto Gad cried when Tsunade Bachan had taught him the history of the Uzumaki clan and their specialty, and the cause of their destruction. But Tsunade and Shizen had consoled him as he cried for the family that he had never known and had lost. That was what had started his fascination with Fuinjutsu, as a fire was lit in him to become a Fuinjutsu master and make his ancestors proud. Naruto had wanted to immediately start reading the book, but after he completed his chakra sensing training and dispelled his shadow clones which were still present, he learned that the first 2 levels were the basics of sealing. Calligraphy, both neatness and speed, seal recognition, and the foundational language of seals for the first part, culminating in the creation of the storage seal. The second part was an introduction to synced and localized reactions, i.e., explosive tags, as well as building multifaceted seal arrays. Naruto had learned that he had the required calligraphy skill to start learning level 1 of the book, but he was dead tired and was not able to concentrate properly, and so decided to postpone it to tomorrow, as the first thing he learned about Fuinjutsu was not to mess around with it without proper precautions. So, he quickly brushed his teeth and went to bed for the day.